Tonight, at some point between 11 p.m. and midnight, you are going to disappear. Not metaphorically, not poetically. You, the thing reading these words right now, the voice inside your head, the sense of being someone, will cease to exist for approximately 8 hours. You will not notice it happen. You cannot. The very machinery required to notice anything will have shut down. Your memories will stop recording. Your sense of time will collapse. Your awareness of being a person in a world will simply stop. And then somewhere around 7 a.m. you will reappear. You will open your eyes. And without any effort at all, you will resume being you, as if nothing happened. As if you had not just spent a third of your life in a state that, if we are being precise about it, looks disturbingly like temporary death. I want you to sit with that for a second. If I described a medical procedure where a patient loses all awareness, cannot form memories, has no sense of self, no experience of time passing, and exists in this state for 8 hours, you would call that general anesthesia. You would call it a medically induced coma. You would want to know, where did the patient go? But we do not ask that question about sleep. We close our eyes, we vanish, we come back. And we go about our day as if the vanishing was nothing. It is not nothing. It is one of the deepest unsolved problems in all of neuroscience. So the question I want to chase today is not why do we sleep? That question has practical answers. Memory consolidation, cellular repair, metabolic cleaning, useful answers, important answers, but they dodge the real mystery. The question I want to chase is more specific and I think more unsettling. Where does you actually go during deep sleep? What happens to the thing that experiences? And if it can vanish so completely every single night and come back every single morning, what does that tell us about how fragile, how constructed, how conditional your sense of being someone actually is? Because once you start pulling on this thread, you realize that consciousness, the thing you think you are, might be far more like a process than a thing. Something that starts and stops. Something the brain does, not something the brain has. Let me start with what we know for sure. It is 1949. A young scientist named Horace Magoon is working at Northwestern University with a neurosurgeon named Giuseppe Maruzzi. They are doing something crude by modern standards. They are lesioning cat brains and stimulating different regions with electrodes, trying to figure out which parts do what. They are focused on a tangled knot of neurons in the brainstem called the reticular formation. It is an ancient structure, evolutionarily speaking. It sits at the base of the brain, where the spinal cord meets the skull. Nobody knows exactly what it does. Magoon and Maruzzi stimulate it. The sleeping cat wakes up. They lesion it. The cat falls into a coma from which it never recovers. Here is the moment where everything changes. They have found what they call the ascending reticular activating system, the brain's on-off switch for consciousness itself. Damage it, and the lights go out permanently. Stimulate it, and the lights come back on. This single discovery reframes the entire question of sleep. Sleep is not the brain powering down like a computer shutting off. Sleep is the brain actively suppressing consciousness. The machinery of awareness is still there. It is being held in the off position by dedicated circuits whose job is to keep you unconscious. Think about that. You have neural systems whose entire purpose is to make you disappear every night. Evolution built a delete button for your conscious self, and it presses that button automatically on a schedule, whether you like it or not. Let me show you what happens inside your skull during those 8 hours. The first thing to understand is that sleep is not one state. It is several states, stacked in cycles, each doing something different. But the state that matters most for our question, the state where you most completely vanishes, is deep slow-wave sleep. During slow-wave sleep, something remarkable happens. Massive waves of electrical activity roll across your cortex, billions of neurons firing together and then going silent together in slow, synchronized pulses. 1 second, vast regions of your brain are active. The next second, they are completely quiet. On, off, like a tide washing in and out across the neural landscape. These slow waves are so powerful, so all-consuming, that they essentially prevent the kind of complex differentiated neural activity that seems to be required for conscious experience. Here is how one neuroscientist put it. During deep sleep, different parts of the brain lose the ability to talk to each other. The long-range connections that normally integrate information across the cortex, the connections that bind your visual experience to your emotional response to your sense of self, go dark. The brain becomes fragmented, isolated islands of activity, unable to communicate. And without that integration, there is no experience. There is nobody home to have an experience. Let me make sure you understand the full scope of what is happening. Giulio Tononi, a neuroscientist at the University of Wisconsin, has spent decades studying this. He has a measure called the Perturbational Complexity Index, essentially a way of probing how much integrated information the brain is processing. During waking consciousness, the index is high. During REM sleep, when you dream, it is still relatively high. During deep, slow-wave sleep, it crashes. The brain is active, metabolically busy, but its activity has lost the complexity and integration associated with consciousness. The brain is on, but you are not. This distinction matters enormously. It tells you that consciousness is not just about neural activity. It is about a very specific kind of neural activity. The kind where different regions communicate, integrate information, form a unified whole. Take that away, and the brain keeps working. It regulates your heart, your breathing, your hormones, but the person vanishes. So here is the question that no one can answer. During those periods of deep, slow-wave sleep, when the integration collapses and conscious experience stops, where do you go? There are only a few options, and none of them are comfortable. Option 1, you cease to exist temporarily. Consciousness ends. There is no you having an experience of darkness or emptiness. There is simply no you at all. And then, when the brain state shifts, a new instance of consciousness boots up, inherits the memories and personality of the previous instance, and seamlessly believes itself to be the same person who fell asleep. If this is true, then you die every single night, and a copy wakes up every morning. Option 2. Consciousness continues in some form, but memories are not being recorded. You are still experiencing something during deep sleep, but the hippocampus, the brain's memory-writing system, is offline, so no record is made. The experience happens and is instantly forgotten, leaving no trace. If this is true, then you might be having experiences right now that you will never remember. The absence of memory is not evidence of the absence of experience. Option 3. Consciousness is not binary, but graded. During deep sleep, there is not zero experience. There is minimal experience. A faint, contentless awareness that is so reduced it barely qualifies as consciousness at all. Something rather than nothing, but only barely. The honest answer is, we do not know which of these is correct. We cannot know, because the only tool we have for detecting conscious experience is conscious experience. We cannot step outside consciousness to observe whether it is present when no one is there to report it. And this is where the investigation stops being about sleep and starts being about something much bigger. What you're really asking when you ask, where do I go during sleep, is, what am I in the first place? If consciousness can switch off and switch back on, and the person who wakes up feels like a continuous self even though there was a gap, then personal identity is not what you thought it was. You think of yourself as a thing that persists, a continuous entity that travels through time. But sleep suggests something different. Sleep suggests that you are more like a flame than a stone, a process that must keep happening to exist at all. Stop the process, and the flame goes out. Start it again, and a new flame appears. Same shape, same color, but not numerically identical to the one that vanished. Richard Feynman once said, "The first principle is that you must not fool yourself, and you are the easiest person to fool. Your brain fools you every single morning. It boots up, accesses the memories stored in the previous configuration, and generates a feeling of continuity, a feeling that you have been here all along. But that feeling is a construction. It is the brain's way of smoothing over an 8-hour gap in existence. You feel continuous because the brain tells you that you are continuous, not because continuity is a fact. Tonight you will lie down. Your brain will begin suppressing the neural integration that makes you exist. Slowly, stage by stage, the lights will dim, the slow waves will roll in, the person you are right now will stop happening, and something or nothing will persist through the dark hours. Then the process will reverse, the waves will recede. Integration will return, a sense of self will crystallize out of the neural noise, and whoever wakes up will check the clock, stretch, and assume they are the same person who went to bed. Maybe they are, maybe they are not. The brain will not tell you either way. It cannot. It is the very system running the illusion. So here is the question I want to leave you with. If you can vanish so completely every single night and come back feeling like nothing happened, what makes you so certain that the you reading this sentence is the same one who started reading this video? What makes you certain you have ever been continuous at all? That is the mystery, and science cannot answer it yet. Maybe it never will. Sleep well tonight.